Welcome to the March 5th, 2024 Ottawa County Board of Commissioners Planning and Policy Committee meeting. The first item on our agenda this morning is public comment session. If you have a public comment you'd like to make, please approach the podium, announce your name and your address, and you have 3 minutes to address your comments to the chair.
Good morning, Dina Arner. I vote in Holland Township, and I wanted to just make sure it's still true that all of the important, where the boards and commissions where all of the important work is going on is truly just Joe and his sycophants, those willing to kiss his ring and bend the knee. And I don't know if you're aware, Joe. Oh, I know you're not the chair of this group, but I'll still address you. I don't know if you're aware, but what you're doing with this particular makeup of all these boards and commissions is basically broadcasting your weakness. It is not strength to pick only those who agree with you, to talk with you, to create an echo chamber of people who will repeat back your ideas. It is strength to listen to dissenting opinions and discuss issues with people who feel the opposite you do, to see if you can come up with a better idea, a better plan by listening to others. Speaking of listening to others, it would be helpful if those of you who are here on my dime had the common courtesy to lift your face and at least pretend to listen when your constituents are speaking. But I guess that shows the respect that you show your constituents. It's pretty much the same respect that you show the rest of the employees here at Ottawa County. And I cannot wait for the day when we turn you all out of office.
Thank you. Good morning.
Good morning. My name is David Barnowski, and I vote in Port Sheldon Township. I did a little review recently, and I discovered that the original letter saying that it was illegal to fire the public health officer, the original legal opinion, it was illegal to fire the public health officer just because you disagree with her opinion, was filed August 30th, 2021. September 28th of that same year, there was a second opinion by Mike Cox saying the same thing, told the previous commissioners that it was illegal for them to fire them just because they disagreed with her handling of the Libertas school or mask mandates or anything else, because her authority came through a different path than through this board. 2.5 years later, you apparently have just finally realized that that applies to you too. So after changing, what I believe illegally, changing the outcome of a previous board's actions, for which you got thoroughly rebuked by the Court of Appeals, an opinion which I recorded and enjoy to replay to myself repeatedly, ridiculing your counsel's arguments, was something you should change back, by the way. That December 13th ruling that you changed in February, you should change it back. Finding that your arguments were ridiculous. And that every dollar you spent after that time, and that your arguments were based on what should have been known false accusations, because there was a resolution in hand when they made that vote. You all voted for the very same thing that is getting Lucy Ebels recalled. You should all be recalled. You all went against common decency in refuting what the previous board did. You should all be removed from office. And you all just finally realized it and gave up on your task to break the law.
Lori Grassman, Robinson Township. I'm a little confused because last week we weren't allowed to have free speech about other things that weren't on the agenda, but this week we obviously are. So I'm super confused about that. I don't know if that's free speech or if I'm allowed to have free speech or if they're allowed to have free speech. But I just want to thank the park guys for all that they're doing. As a special needs mom, I love the idea of having an adult changing table in the bathroom because I have an adult that needs to have her diaper changed, and we would love to be able to go to the parks and enjoy those. So thank you very much.
Would anyone else like to make public comment? Okay, there is another opportunity at the end of the meeting. So the first order of business is the approval of the agenda. Is there a motion?
Motion to approve the agenda.
Second.
Okay, motion and support. All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. Next item is the consent resolution that contains the approval of the minutes for the February 6th Planning and Policy Committee meeting. Is there a motion of approval?
So move.
Support.
Motion support. Any comments, questions, concerns about the minutes? Okay. All those in favor of approval say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? All right, motion passes. Okay, that gives us to our first item of action. The first item is item 1, a Land and Water Conservation Fund grant application for UMAC. The recommended motion is the application is to recommend the application to the Land and Water Conservation Fund program for funding assistance of the Upper Macatawa Natural Area Greenway Trailhead Project and forward to the County Board of Commissioners for final approval. Would anyone like to make that motion?
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Okay. So we have a motion and a second. And I see we have Kurt and Jason from the Parks Department here with us today. You guys gonna decide, like, thumb wrestle for who's gonna address this one?
I'm going to.
All right, good morning, Kurt.
So we have a short presentation that outlines this project, so you get a good idea about it. This was presented at our last Parks Commission, which is also a public comment period on the project. So you'll see what they saw. So yeah, Upper Macatawa Natural Area. If you're not exactly familiar with that, it's southern part of the county, south central, just southeast of Zealand, southeast of the 196 highway. So it's a big park. It's one of our biggest ones, 612 acres. And this project is at the 84th Street entrance, which is the main entrance, but there are two entrances. There's one kind of on the northeast and one on the southwest. This is on the southwest one. So this is an air photo looking east at what's there now. It's a pretty well-developed access point for the park. And you can see it's, even this photo, it's pretty busy because we have facilities there. We've got a nice shelter. We've got water. We've got a bike repair station. And it's very popular with people using the paved trail. We call it the Macatawa Greenway Trail, and also as a mountain bike site. This is one of our biggest sites for mountain biking. We have a nice length of trail there, and this is where most people access those sites. So the yellow box is the area where we're proposing to add this restroom facility. It has right now a pit toilet, which everybody knows pit toilets are functional, but not really very nice for most things. So this is a little plan showing it, right? We're connecting into the existing walkways with this new restroom building. It's all barrier-free. It will have the changing table like we've been doing in all our new restrooms. We're also doing some interesting things on this one. Again, we're proposing to harvest rainwater to flush the toilets. So kind of a sustainability kind of thing, but we think it's a good thing to do, and we're testing it right now at Ottawa Sands. So hopefully that one works good. We think it will. So we're proposing it here as well. So here's a little floor plan of what we're proposing. It has a men's and women's side, and then it also has a family restroom, which we've been doing for a while, but that's where this changing table would be. What's really unique about this particular facility is that we've had the bikers asking for changing rooms. because a lot of people will come after work or before work, do their workout on their bike and want to change back. So we're actually proposing 2 changing shower rooms on this building to accommodate that use better than we are at this point. Architecturally, it matches all the new restrooms we've been doing are kind of this style. So it would fit right in with everything we've been doing to this point. There's a side view. It's a nice building. Here's the budget. Construction of this kind of facility, believe it or not, is over $600,000. That includes all of the utilities, and it's just a ton of plumbing in a building like this, basically. And handling it for a group purpose like this, not just a residential purpose, adds quite a bit of cost. But there's the cost, about $80,000 for the design and engineering. And this grant, you need to match 50%. So we're proposing that this grant would fund $347,500 out of the total price. So this is normal. We apply for this grant fairly regularly. In fact, the Ottawa Sands restroom that is under construction right now was funded with this grant. So that's why we think we have a good chance to get some extra funds through this grant program. So that's a summary. And questions.
Mr. Bergman.
Yes. How do you propose to prevent vandalism?
How do we propose to prevent vandalism?
As much as you can.
As much as we can. Well, I mean,
Yeah.
this is a constant thing, right, at
Right.
our
Yeah.
park systems.
Yep.
I mean, I think the main thing we do is we monitor it regularly. This park does have lighting on it, so that helps. And I think the best thing you can do is if something happens, you fix it right away, so it doesn't appear that you're not taking care of it.
So
And
you don't
forth.
have any cameras that are mounted in the area?
You know, we aren't proposing that here as part of this project. I don't know, Jason, if that could happen at some point. It's becoming a lot easier to do that than it
Yeah.
used to be.
Yes.
So I mean, the other thing we do is obviously these are made, the restroom is made to take some abuse, right? It's a block building. The materials we use are very vandal resistant. So I don't know if there's an answer to
Okay.
vandalism in general,
Yeah.
right? It's
Well, I know that's been an issue at parks for a long
Yeah.
time, and
yeah.
sometimes cameras are used in the
Yeah.
area to at least pinpoint who did it.
Right.
Right. Thanks.
Commissioner Minima?
Just a comment, I went and visited this particular park for the first time with my son last week, and I can definitely see, I saw a lot of bikers. I think it will be very nice for them to have a spot to change, and as one of the public comments mentioned, having the adult changing table, I think will also be a nice feature. So looking forward to seeing this go through.
Yeah, and it ties in actually with the project we're working on with Holland Township. Further down the river is Hawthorne Pond, so we're doing a project with them there. So this will all be connected together, kind of in one big system of parks and open space.
Commissioner Moss?
Yeah, good morning. Just a quick
morning.
question. So when in general do you expect to hear back on the grant?
These are, we submit April 1, we find out in early December.
Okay.
Yep.
And what would happen if you didn't get it?
We would figure out a
Resubmit?
different way to do it.
Okay.
Probably scale it back somehow.
Okay.
We do, thankfully, we do have money to do some of it.
Yep.
We'd probably take out some of like the rainwater harvesting system. We'd probably take that out.
Okay.
Even though we like it, it's not essential to what we're doing.
Yeah. Okay.
I just had a couple questions on, just curious, it'd be hard to gauge the savings on, going to a rainwater
Mhm.
system versus, because you don't have a meter or water meter there right now. So it'd be hard to kind of compare before and after. So I was just curious if there was any other measurables on what this might save.
Yeah, I mean, it would be, there is a way because we do meter how much goes through the rainwater harvesting system.
Oh, you
So
do?
you would
Okay.
know
Okay.
you saved 10,000 gallons, over the summer or something like that, or used that much. This is served by a well, so yes, we really don't have a metering system now.
Oh,
but we
okay.
would know how much we actually used
Okay.
from the rainwater.
And then secondly is like a changing room, park, trailhead, is that kind of a unique thing? Are there other ones out there that kind of brought this idea to the forefront?
There are some, right? I would say it's pretty unique around here, but changing rooms, you know, we have them like at the beach, right? We have changing rooms, those kind of situations. So in that way, it's not that much different. But it is a little unique. Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then last question is, you talked about kind of the style of the facility itself, the
Mhm.
building. Is there any kind of sort of standard you guys use and then say, we're going to adopt this kind of architectural model for a given period of time, and then it's kind of like that's that generation, and then you move into
That's pretty much what we did. We, I don't know how long it was ago, we did the restroom at Grand Ravines at the dog park. That was the first one that really went for this style with all the features that we really want. And we've been modifying it slightly since then. So yeah, this is the model we've been using, and it'll probably come to you soon. If we proceed with that, we will use the same architect or want to use the same architect who did the previous ones because they have it all ready to go.
well, and it seems like if you do that, then you're going to have some degree of stockpile of, maintenance and,
Yep.
you
Yeah, so all the
components, if you
fixtures,
will.
we use the same types of fixtures in them, so it's easier on our maintenance guys.
You
Yep.
buy the paint by the
Paint is the
55
same,
gallon
same
drum.
color. Yep, yeah, you can buy the bulk of that. Yep, that's right.
Okay. Any other questions for Kurt? Okay, hearing none. Should we go to roll call vote?
Definitely. Mr. Moss,
Yes.
Mrs. Rhodey,
Yes.
Mrs. Minema,
Yes.
Mr. Bergman,
Yes.
Mr. Belknap.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Okay, the next item is a contract for MDNR support of the Bass River Trail segment with a suggested motion to approve the cooperative agreement with Michigan Department of Natural Resources for funding assistance in the amount of $715,000 for the development of the Idema Explorers Trail Bass River segment Phase 1 and move forward to the Board of Commissioners for final approval.
So moved.
Okay, we have a motion and is there support?
Second.
Second, okay. And here you are, Kurt, probably to address questions with this one as well.
Yeah, so I don't have a pretty presentation on this, but I will just give you a little bit of background. We've been working for many years with the state of Michigan to get the Idema Explorers Trail to run through the state Bass River State Recreation Area. If you don't know, Ottawa County had a big part in getting the state to acquire that property, and there was always this intent that it would become part of the Grand River Greenway and that eventually we could run a trail through there. So we've been working with them for a long time on that. We've gone through various iterations of where exactly the trail would go to fit with what their plans are and work with other users that are already there. Through that process, we did determine a trail route that we're working on. It wasn't our ideal trail route. The state asked us to move it from our ideal route, which was close to the river, farther away. As part of that, they assured us that they would help us with some of the funding of the extra costs for that. So this is part of that. They've actually already given us $125,000 in two smaller agreements similar to this. But this is the first really big amount, $715,000 to help with that. They're committed to, at least verbally committed to, over $2 million total. But this is a great start and it will allow us to do the first phase. We think there's going to be 3 or 4 phases to get all the way through the Bass River area because it's quite long. But this would allow us to do the first one. And it's about the easiest 715 we've ever got. They're just saying, sign it and we will send the money. So pretty good for us. And they've been kind of piecemealing it, right? They've been finding the money in different ways, and that's why they're coming in these pieces and not one big lump sum.
Any questions for Kurt?
So
Commissioner Bergman?
So Kurt, is a lot of this wetlands? Is that the reason for the high cost?
No, it's just quite a bit. Yes. Well, part of it is it's longer and they were forcing us to go through some areas that were not as suitable for a trail. We're trying to work around those still, and there's still some chance that we can reduce the cost, but the length was quite a bit long. It's longer.
Right.
Yeah.
Any other questions? Okay, we'll go to a roll call vote.
Mr. Bergman,
Yes.
Mrs. Minema,
Yes.
Mr. Moss,
Yes.
Mrs. Rhodey,
Yes.
Mr. Belknap.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Okay, our last item for action is the 2024 Michigan Natural Resources Trust Fund grant application. The suggested motion is to recommend an application to the Michigan Natural Resources Trust Fund program for funding assistance to construct the Eastmanville connector segment of the Grand River Greenway Idema Explorers Trail and forward to the County Board of Commissioners for final approval. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Okay. Okay, we learned a little bit about this one yesterday. You have
Yes.
a presentation on this one?
Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, this is the Eastmanville Bayou segment. This actually is a pretty good picture of it. If we have some nice air photos, it's a little hard to see where it actually goes, but way on the bottom right is Eastmanville Bayou on 68th Avenue. And so the trail is going along the river there to it's actually going east, but to the upper and left is where the trail segment we're talking about. But this is part of our overall greenway plan for the Grand River, right? So we've been purchasing properties that are great for conservation and recreation. And now we're at the point where we're trying to connect all these pieces with a multi-use paved accessible trail. So this is just our overall plan that shows that, we have various segments. I think there's 12 or 13 segments that we're working on. This particular one is, like I said, in Eastmanville Bayou area, which is Allendale Township, but it starts there at 68th Avenue where the bridge crosses the Grand River. We already have a nice, access point there. The trail goes under the bridge there and then through Eastmanville Bayou Park for about a mile on the waterfront, and then heads inland and eventually connects to 60th Avenue in Allendale Township. We think we have a good chance at getting this grant this time. We've looked at different funding sources before, but everyone knows Allendale is growing, and that purple area is now what is defined as the urbanized zone in Ottawa County. And if you connect a trail to an urbanized zone, that is a plus for your grant application. You get extra points for that. So we think at this point, this makes really good sense to try to get some funding assistance for this project. So this is 60th. This is another reason locally. This doesn't have sidewalks. It doesn't have anything, right? So it's not a nice place for people to walk. It's a busy road. No shoulders, no nothing. So we think there'll be advantages locally as well as regionally for us. And we've been coordinating with Allendale Township through this whole process. This is their plan out of their rec plan, how they want their non-motorized trail system to work in the future. So we're tied right into that. We've been working with them closely on where this would be and what makes the most sense for both of us. And here's our overall budget. We're thinking about $1.69 million for this. It's about 3 miles. So it's a good length. This grant would fund about 400,000 of that. We have money again through our campaign that we've raised money for the Grand River Greenway. We have money to do it. This would just really stretch our dollars even further. Questions?
Okay.
Must.
Sure. What is the speed limit on 60th or where it's proposed to go?
Ooh, Sylvia, you maybe would know. It's pretty fast, right? It's at least 45.
I think it's 55, but we regularly have people going 70.
Yeah, it's a pretty fast spot. It actually seems pretty dangerous because of the hills. Aren't there hills on that?
There are some up and downs, yep. But obviously this is a separated path, so it's gonna be a lot better than the current situation.
What kind of trail will it be, Kurt? Will it be paved?
Yeah, it's 10-foot wide asphalt paving. Mhm.
Commissioner Moss?
I always wonder when we're looking at these types of changes where they are touching people's homes or
Mhm.
where people live. Has the township or the county talked to residents and to see what they feel about losing their yard?
Yeah, so this actually came up in the last meeting we had on this. We had a couple of folks who had some concerns, which is, pretty normal for this. But we're trying to assure people we either are using public property, right, or the road right of way. Some places we did think it would be better if it was further away from the road, and we've sought easements from people. And a good number of people have agreed to that, right, to make the trail better. So yeah, I think Allison was asking about that the other day. Is this normal? And I would say this is maybe less controversial than normal. And we do have a number of people who have talked to us about, yes, we need to have something on this road because it's so bad to walk, right? They want to walk or ride their bikes and it's just not suitable.
I wouldn't ride my bike.
No, I mean, people do it, but it's crazy, right?
Yeah.
It's just not good. So this would connect all the way to where the sidewalk starts coming out of Allendale. So it would create a full route that's separated from the road.
Commissioner Rhodey?
So in some ways, maybe it's slightly different than the whole grant application question, but like I expressed yesterday, I do get concerned with the incline of those hills and how fast that road is. And yeah, I see some benefit also putting a trail there because people are already using it and it's extremely dangerous, for us to be trying to navigate around bikers and walkers and runners on those really dangerous hills. But I do get concerned about the intent of driving more people from, the Allendale more populated area down that very dangerous road and through dangerous intersections. So I definitely still have some significant safety concerns. Another concern that we didn't really talk about yesterday is that some of the water tables are a little all over the place out there. And so there are a number of residents who struggle with keeping water out of their basements. And so I get a little concerned when we start to play with the ditches and, the bike path is going to go along some of the ditches and places where people are draining water in their yards to get the water away from their homes. And so has that been taken into account? Like, are you careful as you go down the road? Are you looking at each home situation to make sure we're not flooding homes when we do this?
Oh yeah, absolutely. We have a professional engineer who looks at each situation, how the drainage works now, how it will work in the future. And then it also goes through the road commission because they're very sensitive with ditches next to their roads because you can't mess that up either, right? They don't want flooded roads. Right. So it goes through a couple of different processes to make sure that we're not negatively impacting anybody.
And what happens if someone is negatively impacted?
Well, I think we would have to do an investigation on that, right? Depending on where it is, between the road commission and us, if they think it's the trail, right? To figure out what the problem is. If it's identified that it's our problem, we would, address it however it needed to be done.
What's the timeline on this particular grant, Kurt?
So this one again is we submit in April, we find out in December. This grant takes a little bit longer because the state legislature needs to approve the recommendations, and that usually happens in the summer. So summer of 25, we would get the formal agreement. We would hope to be ready to construct hopefully in the fall of 2025, or this is an area that's getting other work done, sewer and water kind of issues, or we would make sure we're coordinated with what's happening with
Do you know, do you
that
have a
project.
date in April that it's due?
April 1.
All right. Another follow-up question from our, so I guess for the sake of a couple other people here, some of us went and took a tour yesterday as at our request. And I'm very appreciative of Parks taking us out to see this particular segment. I guess a question that I still have revolves around the area we parked, kind of in that dead end area. I think that was 61st. Is that correct?
61st. Yeah.
I know we talked about putting potential signage up there about not parking. But logistically, that doesn't prevent somebody from parking along the road like we did yesterday, correct?
No, I think we were looking at doing something like that to have
We would have that,
roadside, no parking if we can get that approved by the township or whoever else needs to approve it.
that there would actually be no parking along the road, not just in that little area that would lead down to the river.
Right. Yeah. I mean, that's what my understanding was we would seek to get no parking.
Okay.
That
Because I
a
could
no
see
parking
that
zone
being an
officially.
issue that a lot of people would want to come and park, and it would, from my point of view, I do think the privacy of the people living there would be greatly affected if it becomes an area that people are parking alongside their quiet, scenic, current living environment. So.
Yep.
Okay. How feasible have you done something like that before?
We've done it before. Yeah. It matters whose road it is, right? I think it's road commission road, but then it's funny how that works, whether the township does have authority to make no parking zones. So we've done it. We've done it right out here at Pigeon Creek Park, right along the sides there. We've had problems with people parking along the roads in the wintertime. So we have it there. We just did it at Wind's Nest Park, which we're now managing for Park Township. There was a similar issue there. So there's no parking on the road there. So it's been done.
Okay. So the township makes that decision?
The township, I believe, does have authority to make that.
They made the request to the commission.
Is that how it works? Yeah. So you need a couple of approvals, but
Would you make the request of the township on behalf of Parks, or how does that?
yeah, we would
work?
talk to the township about designating that area as no parking.
Commissioner Moss?
I guess I'm curious on, I wasn't over there when you went on the tour, so I pulled it up on the map. I'm wondering if you're talking about 61st Avenue north of Lincoln? Is that where?
Correct.
And people might park there?
Yeah, there's a road that goes up about a block or
Yeah.
so, and then we're using the right of way actually extends all the way north to the river. So we're using the road right of way. So the concern is, would that be a place where people would want to get on the trail? Because that's where it really gets nice, right? You go into the nice wooded area and into the park. It's hard to know if that will happen, but it could happen.
It kind of looks like it's just a road with people's houses. Am I missing something?
Yeah, there's not a lot of houses, but there are folks who bought those properties to be somewhat isolated, right?
Mhm.
They have riverfront. So yeah, we want to be sensitive to all of that. But there aren't a lot of them, right? There's just basically two owners on the sides of where the trail would go.
So, sorry, the trail would go somewhere maybe along 61st to come down?
Yeah, it's scheduled to go along 61st on the east side of 61st.
Okay.
Yeah.
Kind of in that field almost, or?
Yeah,
like
it is just
adjacent
the
to
field now, right? But it would be in the road right of way there, not on private property.
Okay. And then, sorry, I guess now I'm getting curious.
Oh, yeah.
It would go across the river there?
It doesn't cross the river, but the actual road going north ends, right?
Oh,
It's
okay. Yeah.
or it actually, yeah, it
Kind of
ends.
curves there?
It curves, right?
Yeah.
And we just found out yesterday that where it goes east there is private. It's not road. But where it ends it ends now, there's just gravel road up to there. Then there's still right of way that's undeveloped. It does have a water main under it, but it's undeveloped. It's natural looking. The
Okay.
trail would continue down that. And then when it gets down to the river, it connects to our park property.
Okay.
So Joe, essentially, I think the concern is that there's no room there for parking, for public parking.
Right.
And so it's essentially like the width of the trail, you know, a little wider, but you would just run the trail through that sliver of a piece of land with no room for us to put in parking.
We had that at Hager Park. So I used to live by Hager Park in Jenison. And there's, you know, an entrance on the back side of the park where you can go in. There's
Mhm.
kind of like a little tiny dead end right there.
Yep.
Where people aren't supposed to park. And they usually didn't. Sometimes they would. But then it's just that little entryway. You can just go right in. Yeah.
That's probably a good analogy. It could happen. Hopefully it shouldn't. You know, and we
Right.
talked about, we're going to direct people. We probably will have something there, our own signs that says no parking, please go to Eastmanville Bayou, you know, and tell them where that is. So it's easy to find a place that's appropriate.
Are those homeowners a little sad that they're going to be inundated with people?
Yeah, the one gentleman on the east side there came to the public meeting. We've heard from him several times. And yeah, he's close to it. I get it. But it is public right of way there that's already being used.
Looks like there's trees.
Oh yeah.
Aren't there?
Oh yeah. It's quite natural.
Yeah.
There are trees on all sides. Yeah.
So as Kurt mentioned, we learned that there is a water main and a gas main and some other utilities that run down that right-of-way corridor. And it's kind of like a valley, if you will, with trees on both sides. So I guess my comment on this is knowing that there's those utilities there. Right now, we have numerous trees that have fallen and, you know, basically blocking the pathway. From a utility standpoint, I would think that having, you know, access to that to bring equipment, especially a water main, you know, if you were to have a break, you would probably want to have a valve near, because this literally goes underneath the Grand River. So from the standpoint of access to the utility, to me, something like this project would benefit more than just a trail user, but, you know, potentially prevent some, you know, significant, you know, challenges to maintaining those utilities. And then just the conversation too, you know, we are expanding our pavement network and our trail system pretty significantly with the broader master plan. One of the things I would hope to see and would like to see is I guess a routine evaluation and, you know, sort of like a you know, life cycle planning for our pavements so that, you know, we don't have them fall into, you know, ill repair and then, you know, struggle to find grants to resurface them. So I know our road commission does a good job with preventive maintenance, and I don't know if there's any way of, and maybe you guys already do this type of thing where we're looking at, you know, if we have cracks and things like that, you know, we can seal them and treatments and.
Yeah, we do have a capital inventory, and that is, I can show you it if you want sometime, but yes, it's, you know, looking out to the future and what we anticipate would be the requirements going forward, whether it's for just a minor repair like crack sealing or eventually, you know, total replacement, those kind of things. Yeah.
Okay. Commissioner Moss?
I was just kind of going down 60th virtually since I couldn't do it in person. Are you planning on the east side of the road?
It's the east side, yes.
How about the trees that are all there? Is it taking out a lot of trees or
That was a topic yesterday too.
Okay.
Some of the large ones, we were able to secure an easement from the property owner to go on the.
To just go around.
Go around them, right?
Okay.
We like to do that. The trail is more pleasant. You feel safer when there's a big tree between you and the road.
Yep.
So we try to do that if the property owner is willing. We had a gentleman at our public meeting who didn't want to do that. And so, okay, the tree will be removed, unfortunately, but if he feels better about it overall, I guess that's fine.
Okay.
So,
Commissioner Miedema?
One thing I still want to have the conversation about is, I think Parks had looked at going down Warner Street. And you had also looked at 60th, correct? And Warner, you kind of had said no to because you couldn't get down by the river. Is that correct? Correct.
yeah, this is going back a little ways, right? That was our original intent, to stay closer to the river through this whole section, but we ran into quite a few obstacles.
Had you looked at bringing it back up closer to Warner Street instead of just going down by the river? Had you, I guess that's still a question I have, because I believe one of the reasons for this bike path was for the aesthetic part of it and getting out and to enjoy leisure. That was the overall goal, if I'm correct. And I guess I'm trying to just still, in my mind, the 60th is a lot busier than if you were to go down Warner, and the Warner would be much more scenic.
Yeah. So Warner still would not be our ideal, right? But I think in the short term, we did not see a reasonable route that going that way. So that's when we started to work more closely with the township and asked, well, can we work within your trail plan? Where would you like it to go? And I can actually, if you look at Allendale Township, their overall trail plan does go down Warner, right? So eventually the township is hoping to
go to 42nd.
I don't know exactly where they had it, but we can go back to that a second if you
So
want.
this was the township's preferred plan, was to go down 60th currently versus turning the corner off of 60th going on to Warner.
Yes.
Okay.
Right, because they want to get to the heart of Allendale. You know,
Okay.
if Allendale has a downtown, that's it. So, I mean, that's the dilemma, right? You're doing it in a busy place, but that's where people need it and want it, right? They want to get to those places. So.
I guess one concern I have, because I'm guessing that you guys did some of this planning a while ago. And so obviously things like traffic and even speeds might change over time. And so I would just want to know that going forward, that you're continuing to evaluate that, and that, you know, again, I'm just really worried about these intersections. So as you know, if we end up having some real safety needs, which I think we actually already do, I'm hoping that we can implement some things to make sure that 60th and Warner is safe, and that Lake Michigan Drive and 60th are safe. So.
Yeah, I mean, we're with you. I would say it isn't unusual, though, what we have going on here. I mean, there are trails like this existing that we have already, maybe not quite as hilly, but where the speeds are this high, it's pretty typical if you're going to do it through a semi-rural area. And I would agree with you. It's more likely that the speed limit will be reduced over time, because as those houses become developed, that will change.
Right.
What people expect to have in those areas.
Any other questions for Kurt or Jason? Okay, let's go to a roll call vote.
I have
One more?
one more thing. It looks like there's actually an error in the resolution. Says that 400,000 is 76% of 1.69 million. Should probably be 24%. I think it's just a typo.
Okay.
So I guess I'd motion to amend the item to say 24% on the first page instead of 76%. It's in the fifth whereas.
I think actually it's
Is that-
saying we are committing to 76%. The grant is 24%, but I think it's correct.
Okay. Okay.
Commitment to the project, we're making a commitment of 76%. Oh, but then the stuff in parentheses is wrong.
Well, I think then it goes on in the next one, it talks about this 76%, which is the 1.29.
Yeah.
I think it was just, I think that's supposed to say 24%, but maybe I'm wrong.
It says 76% local match, so that's the amount we're putting forward. But in the parentheses, it says
Oh.
400,000 of this 1.69. So I think it's supposed to, that 400,000 in the parentheses is incorrect.
Should just be 1.296.
1.296, yes.
Okay.
Good catch, though.
So I guess I'd motion to amend it to strike the 400,000 and instead say 1,296,000.
Second.
Second, okay. All in favor of supporting the amendment, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, the amendment passes. Takes us back to,
I just have one more question.
okay,
Okay, the question that has come up with my constituents is just surrounding eminent domain.
Mhm.
So, if somebody doesn't want a proposal like to alter the path, can you just explain what typically happens in that kind of a scenario when you want the path a little bit altered from what you would propose?
Well, we find a way to use the road right of way that we have.
Okay.
And typically that will just be a more expensive solution. Either we have to take out a tree, either we have to fill in a ditch, either we have to do whatever it takes to make the right of way suitable, build a boardwalk. That's more typical maybe, right? So that's a lot more expensive than getting around the obstacle, but that's what we do.
Okay, but
Mhm.
we're not forcibly taking anybody's land to do
We're
this
not
project.
proposing any of that. I mean, I suppose there may be some place where it's just impossible to do something that you need to get the trail through, but I don't believe that's the case here. And we've always done it just purely voluntary for this section. Yep.
Okay, and I think if we got to a point where we're forcibly taking anything for a trail, I think in general, there's a number of us on this board that would have an extreme difficulty
Oh, yeah,
with that.
understood. I
Even-
mean, we've known that for as long as Ottawa County has been around, that eminent domain is not something that
We've never done that.
we haven't done it.
No.
I believe some locals have done it. Some local units, townships have done it, but we have not followed through and had to do that.
Okay, thank you.
okay, let's go to a roll call vote.
Mr. Bergman,
Yes.
Mrs. Medema,
Yes.
Mrs. Rhodey,
Yes.
Mr. Moss,
Yes.
Mr. Belknap.
Yes,
Motion passes.
thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, next item on the agenda, we have a discussion of the Ottawa County Materials Management Plan. And we have Spencer Ballard with us from the Ottawa County Department of Public Health. Understand there's been some work on this. We've had previous presentations from Kim Walters in your department. And so there's been some additional questions. And I think Commissioner Bergman had kind of asked for a summary of pros and cons to moving forward with our materials management plans. So we have Spencer with us to essentially address some of these questions and the work that our legal team in conjunction with the Health Department has put together. So without further ado, I think I'll turn it over to you, Spencer.
Sure. And quite honestly, I don't have like a whole lot to add beyond what Kim has come before you in the past and presented. So I'll keep this kind of brief, but I think you all received a copy of the pros and cons that this was largely Kim and myself working on this before she left maternity leave. This is what we view as the pros and cons. And I think the next steps and kind of what we're asking is that that you guys could pass this along to the full board just to consider moving forward with the notice of intent, which is like an online survey that goes to the state, and I could complete that on your behalf. But there are a few decisions that need to be made at a full board vote. One is who is going to be the county approval agency. which would be the Board of Commissioners, which means we would be coming back to you as we move forward with development of the plan. You would be the approval agency, recommending that Kim Walters be appointed as the DPA, which is the designated point of authority, and she's been that in the past for the solid waste management group. And doing those things will allow that committee to start reconvening and determining next steps as far as who's going to be on the new material management plan committee. So we could move forward with some visits to talent and recruitment and things of that nature to get that all dialed in. So that's kind of my hope today for you guys, but I'm here to answer questions to the best of my ability. Unfortunately, Kim, who's the true subject matter expert, is off, but I'll do my best if you have anything that I can answer.
Corporate Counsel, Jack, do you have any comments to make on this as well?
Yes, I do. And Spencer has done a fine job. We put together the pros and cons of this plan based on the question of Commissioner Bergman. The deadline that we're working through is July 8th. Today is March 5th. It was just Christmas. And it seems like time is running. And these deadlines get closer and closer with every passing day. So I don't want to put it off for another month. I really would like to emphasize that Spencer and Kim have worked very diligently to put together this plan. And if we don't act, the state will act. And I don't think anybody wants to do that. So it would be my recommendation that we allow Spencer and the health department to put together the notice of intent that needs to be filed because they have all the pertinent information that needs to be submitted and put into that plan. And then we can really move ahead before July 8th, because there's a lot of things that we need to do before that date. And this is only one aspect of it. It's the beginning part. So that's what I would recommend.
Okay. Any questions for Jack or Spencer?
No, I think you're right. I think we need to move forward and make sure that we get this done on time.
Yeah.
Commissioner Moss?
I feel quite comfortable with our current timeline, and I don't think we're in like an extreme rush or anything, but also think it's good to keep moving forward.
Spencer, do you know the July 8 deadline? When would the first meeting actually start with the committee members on it? Do you know what the timeline for that would be? I'm just trying to think for talent recruitment when we need to have these posted
Right.
in time to actually start meeting.
Yeah, I don't think that there's like a whole bunch of things due on July. The main thing is the notice of intent. What that'll allow is us to move forward and get this committee dialed in. And I don't think that there's like a looming quick deadline. A lot of the current members are going to want to transition over, and then there's just going to be probably, I would guess, just a couple open seats for some specific positions that are new.
I think with establishing this, though, they would still have to go through the interview process.
Right.
Even
No,
though
I
that's
agree.
the assumption, correct?
100%. Yeah, I agree with
I'm
you.
just thinking timeliness of getting them all scheduled, and they have to be posted for a certain amount of time. And
Yeah,
so
I would
that's
circle
not the
back.
deadline with that. It's
No,
Okay.
and I'll circle back with more information on that. I think once the committee knows that the county is electing to be running this thing, then they'll have a more robust meeting in the future to discuss those next steps and dial in some of those things, and we can come back with more information on that. Right now, everyone's just kind of in a holding pattern. I was at the last meeting, and you kind of sit down and say, like, the future's unknown until we sign this. And so I think people will really dive into the details once we get this submitted. So
what's our relationship like with haulers and landfill operators? Looking at that second industry pushback, do you have conversations with them from the health department?
I don't routinely. Kim is in contact with them. They are like partners of ours, obviously, because our whole program is to reduce some of those waste streams that would go to the landfill otherwise. And so, I mean, this is across the state. The landfills are on our committee currently. They seem to be great partners in that effort. So I don't anticipate any pushback, but again, I can't speak to what their concerns might be that they haven't spoken about at our committee meetings. So, yeah.
Commissioner Moss?
It mentions a 3-year commitment or process. Could you just briefly talk about that?
Yeah. So that kicks off, 3-year commitment to this process of developing the materials management plan. So they're giving us plenty of time to develop that, and we'd be coming back to the board as the county approval agency as we work through that new plan. The goal of the new plan is just to manage all materials. I know Kim has mentioned this, but recycling efforts and things like that, things we're already doing at our collection sites. It's just building out those partnerships. And I can't say what exactly the new plan will look like, but they give us 3 years and there's grant funding to help develop that. We'd very likely be contracting with an outside private firm to help develop some of that too, with some of the grant funding that the state provides. So
it is a long time, but I think actually almost as a benefit gives it gives the department more time to work through all the details. So I'm pretty comfortable with the timeline, even if it were to go a little faster or whatever. That sounds good. Industry pushback, I do get that as maybe a con, might be an issue, but also opportunities to work with the people who are involved. So I see that could also be a benefit, especially over the long term. And then especially roll that into number 3, where there haven't been changes for a very long time. There are other issues surrounding all of this that are going to, come into play. I think it's all, going to work out really well.
Great. Anything else I can answer?
So really at this point, the next step is notice of intent to proceed. What type of authorization do we give from this committee? Is that pretty much just a directive at this point from administration?
If we can put together a resolution that can be submitted at the next board meeting, it doesn't have to be a resolution, but we can do it that way.
Yeah, I'm happy to reconnect with council and continue moving forward.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So that's what we can expect to see, that we're continuing, adding this to the next agenda and keep the progress going.
Cool.
All right. Any other questions? Okay. Thank you, Spencer. Appreciate it.
Thank you, guys.
Our last item at this point is another round of public comment. Again, if you have anything you'd like to share with the chair, please approach the podium in 3 minutes. Good morning.
Derek Mullenberg, Holland Township. Almost a year ago, I stood here and I watched you guys instruct corporate counsel and the former administrator to develop a policy to handle online public comments. To this date, I haven't heard any updates about it, so I'm kind of curious on that. I know I've made follow-up comments in these meetings. I've seen others do it as well. So if you guys have any updates on that, it would be great. I was watching this meeting. I started watching this meeting from home, in my home office, on the live stream on YouTube, which is phenomenal. I think it really helps bring more community members that wouldn't be able to take time out, come here and participate in this process, right? One part of that I actually find very useful is the YouTube live chat. I see people say things in there and I think, oh, I must have gotten up and got a cup of coffee. I missed that. Let me rewind it. Sometimes I just see salient points that are in there. What I noticed is during the last full committee meeting, those were disabled. So I thought, okay, they didn't turn them on. No big deal. This morning, they were on at the beginning of this meeting. I said good morning to some people. And about 10 minutes in, they got turned off. So to me, that doesn't say freedom. That doesn't, that's not what you guys talk about, right? You want to hear from your constituents. If you don't want to hear from people, I'm not sure that politics is the right place to be, right? So I don't know if that's an instruction of you guys or if somebody just clicked the wrong button, but I think that's a misstep that we can fix that for free, right? That's pretty much it. So I drove here just to come here to tell you that I like YouTube live comments. I think I should stay on. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? Okay, last call. Okay, we'll adjourn, and our next meeting, probably wait about 10 minutes or so to get everybody here for the Finance and Administration Committee meeting. But thank you for being here with us today and those online.